parents locked my wedding fund because I reported Harry for assault, then called it a misunderstanding over dinner. When I asked them why they were doing this to me, my father raised his glass and said, $20 million, sweetheart, grow up. I just stared at him. That was 8 weeks ago. I watched my best friend's family destroy the only girl who ever truly loved him, all because she had the audacity to grow up poor. Adrian and I grew up in private schools and country clubs. We'd been friends since kindergarten, our lives mapped out in trust funds and family businesses. I'd never seen him genuinely happy until he brought Jasmine to his parents' estate. She wore a Target sundress to a party where the cheapest outfit cost more than her monthly rent. When Adrian introduced her, she didn't pretend to be anything she wasn't. I liked her instantly, but I noticed how everyone else's smiles turned plastic. My mother pulled me aside during cocktails. From the projects, works at a diner and a grocery store, obviously after the family money. Dad nodded knowingly. Adrian's parents are mortified. She'll ruin their reputation. I stayed silent when they mocked her clothes. I said nothing when they made her serve her own drinks. I was a coward. Over the following weeks, I watched Adrian's family eviscerate her with surgical precision. His mother would accidentally serve Jasmine on paper plates while everyone ate off china. They'd switch to French whenever she tried joining conversations. His aunt asked which cleaning service she worked for. During one dinner, his mother spent 20 minutes discussing prenups while staring directly at Jasmine. But I noticed things they refused to see. When Adrian tried buying her designer clothes, she made him return everything. She insisted on splitting dinner bills, even though he made more in a week than she did in months. While they called her a gold digger, she wore shoes that were barely holding together. For his mother's birthday, she spent hours creating a photo album of Adrian's childhood instead of buying something expensive. His mother barely glanced at it before setting it aside. I discovered she was secretly paying for Adrian's little sister's tutoring because she didn't want the rest of her family finding out she was failing. On her only day off, she tutored kids at the community center. When Adrian got food poisoning, she used her grocery discount to make him soup instead of ordering from his usual expensive places. Everything changed at Adrian's 25th birthday party. I'd gone to grab champagne from the garage when Harry, his cousin, followed me. He'd been pursuing me for years, getting more aggressive with each rejection. This time he cornered me against the wall, reeking of whiskey. Stop being a tease, Cassandra. His hands gripped my wrists, pinning them. I screamed, but the music drowned me out. The garage door slammed open. Jasmine stood there with a wrench from the toolbox, hitting it against the table. The metallic bang made Harry freeze. Back away from her. Now. Her voice could have cut glass. He laughed until she stepped forward. I said back away. He stumbled backward, calling her ghetto trash, but he left. She stayed with me until I stopped shaking, never asking questions, just holding my hand. When I finally told my parents, they focused on the wrong thing entirely. She threatened him with a weapon? How violent. They insisted she'd escalated unnecessarily and brought her background into our circles. When I tried explaining she'd saved me, they said Harry was just hammered and Jasmine had overreacted. Adrian's family banned her from events after that. They called her dangerous and not our kind. I tried defending her, but no one listened. Then came the breaking point. Adrian's family staged an intervention, offering Jasmine $50,000 to disappear. She refused. Within days, someone posted about the gold digger extorting a prominent family, including both her workplace addresses. The harassment was vicious. Someone sent photos of her mother's disability checks to her boss. They hired a PI to dig through her family's bankruptcy records from when her father died. People called both jobs with threats. She nearly lost them both. I found her last week, sobbing in her hit-up Honda outside Adrian's building. She looked broken, defeated. When she saw me, she tried wiping her tears, but more kept falling. I got into nursing school 3 years ago, she whispered. I've been saving every penny, working 60 hours a week. I haven't bought new clothes in 2 years. I eat ramen 5 nights a week. She laughed bitterly. Your world thinks I want his money. I've never asked Adrian for a single dollar. She showed me her savings account. 3 years of sacrifice, still nowhere near tuition. I love him more than anything, but his family is beyond cruel. I can't do it anymore. Maybe they're right. Maybe I don't belong. She drove away before I could respond. Adrian called yesterday, devastated. She'd ended things and wouldn't tell him why. His family's already setting him up with appropriate girls from appropriate families. And I'm here, knowing the truth about the girl they called a gold digger. The girl who saved me. What happened after? It broke me. I sat in my car for 20 minutes after she left, watching her taillights disappear into the darkness. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The girl who'd saved me from Harry was drowning, and I'd done nothing but watch. I drove to Adrian's penthouse, parking across the street. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I watched him pace back and forth, phone in hand. He'd delete a message, type another, delete that too. The pattern repeated for nearly half an hour. My own phone screen glowed with an unsent message. Can we talk? I deleted it. Adrian's mother monitored his phone like a hawk. Any contact from me would be screenshot and forwarded within minutes. The next few days blurred together. I threw myself into work, trying to forget Jasmine's broken expression. But everywhere I turned, reminders surfaced. Adrian's social media showed him at charity galas with appropriate dates, daughters of family friends, all designer dresses and practiced smiles. None of them looked at him the way Jasmine had. My apartment doorbell rang at 11 p.m. 3 nights later. Adrian stood there swaying slightly, bourbon heavy on his breath. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. He pushed past me without invitation. Call her. He thrust his phone at me. She'll answer if it's you. Tell her I'll do anything. I'll leave my family, give up the trust fund. Just call her. I pushed the phone back. I don't have her new number, Adrian. She changed it. His face twisted. You're lying. You two bonded over the Harry thing. She'd give you her number. His eyes swept my apartment, landing on the amber prescription bottle on my kitchen counter. Anti-anxiety meds? Since when? Since Harry. Since watching everyone dismiss what happened. Since realizing how easily they'd all turned on Jasmine. But I couldn't say that. She didn't give me her number. She just left. Adrian slumped onto my couch, head in his hands. Mom's already planning a dinner party with the Whitmore family. Their daughter just finished her MBA at Wharton. He laughed bitterly. She kept calling Jasmine that girl like she couldn't even say her name. I made him coffee, called him an Uber. As he left, he turned back. If you hear from her, please. The next morning, my assistant knocked on my office door with an odd expression. The senior partner wants to see you. Richard Hartley sat behind his mahogany desk, fingers steepled. Cassandra, please, sit. His tone made my stomach drop. I received a call from the Hamilton family yesterday. They expressed concerns about your professional judgment. The Hamiltons, Harry's family, of course. They suggested perhaps you're under some personal stress. Might benefit from taking a few days to sort things out. It wasn't a suggestion. We value our relationship with the Hamilton group. They're significant clients. I nodded mechanically. As I left his office, my assistant pulled me aside. I saw next week's calendar when I was filing. There are 3 meetings scheduled about personnel review-C position. She looked genuinely worried. I thought you should know. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Moved your wedding fund to a more secure investment option. Requires both our signatures now. Just until this Harry misunderstanding blows over. Love you. Wedding fund, the money my grandmother left me, the one thing that was purely mine. Now locked away because I dared to tell the truth about Harry Hamilton. I decided to try the diner where Jasmine worked. Maybe someone there could help me reach her. The manager, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, shook her head before I finished asking. Stalking. Quit 3 days ago. No notice, no forwarding address. She glanced around nervously. Hamilton family lawyers came by asking the same questions. Told them nothing then, telling you nothing now. As I left, a young busboy loading dishes muttered under his breath, Hamilton lawyers. He said it like a curse word. That evening, my phone lit up with a message from Harry. My blood chilled as I opened it. A photo of my apartment building taken from across the street. The timestamp showed 11:47 p.m. last night. My living room light glowed in one window. Noticed your light on late. Everything okay? H. He'd been watching, waiting, documenting. I spent the weekend installing new locks, a security system, cameras at every entrance. The installation felt like armor against the world. Monday morning, a certified letter arrived from my building's insurance company. Unauthorized modifications to rental unit security systems void coverage under Section 7. 3.2. Please remove all non-approved installations within 72 hours or risk full liability for any incidents. Choose between security and insurance. Between locks that might keep Harry out and coverage if he found another way in. Sunday dinner with my parents came too quickly. Dad raised his wine glass, face glowing with satisfaction. Excellent news. Harry's cousin following her to the garage shows a pattern of behavior that goes way beyond being drunk. This was planned, calculated harassment that the family keeps excusing as normal. The Hamilton Group is investing in our development project. 20 million initial commitment. He looked directly at me. So let's put this garage nonsense behind us, shall we? Harry's a good boy. You misunderstood the situation. My mother's hand trembled as she poured more wine. She knew. Deep down, she knew exactly what Harry was. But $20 million bought a lot of selective blindness. My phone buzzed. Adrian, would 100K show Jasmine I'm serious? I could liquidate some investments. Would that prove I'm not like my family? He still didn't understand. It was never about money. Jasmine had loved him despite his wealth, not because of it. Now he wanted to throw money at the problem like every other rich kid who'd never learned that some things couldn't be bought. That night, my Yale roommate Sarah called. She worked at the DOJ now, climbing the ladder with methodical precision. Cass, I'm hearing things. The Hamiltons have connections everywhere. Judges, prosecutors, police commissioners, document everything. Trust no one. And I mean no one. Even through the phone, I heard her fear. Sarah, who'd graduated summa fluid laude from Yale Law, who'd never backed down from anything, was scared of the Hamiltons. I spent the evening stress cleaning, sorting through old boxes I'd ignored for years. Inside a dusty yearbook, a photo fluttered out. Adrian and me at 16, standing outside the country club. My handwriting on the back, real friends tell hard truths. I flipped to the next photo, my sweet 16 party. There, lurking in the background like a shadow, stood Harry. Even then, watching, waiting. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. The text came from someone named Maya. I'm Jasmine's former roommate. She's staying with relatives out of state. Please don't try to find her. She just wants to disappear. Let her go. The next morning, Adrian's mother called. Not his phone, hers. Cassandra dear, let's have tea. We need to discuss Harry's generous offer. I met her at the club, in a private room overlooking the golf course. She stirred her Earl Grey with deliberate precision. Harry is willing to forgive this entire misunderstanding. All you need to do is accompany him to the charity season events. Be seen together. Let people draw their own conclusions. She smiled, cold as winter. Your father's permits are up for review next month. These things can be so complicated without the right support. Back at my office, I pulled up our client list. Hamilton connections everywhere. 40% of our business traced back to them somehow. 3 judges I'd appeared before had Hamilton ties. My recent promotion suddenly made sense. They'd been positioning me, grooming me for Harry. Tuesday morning, I arrived at my boxing gym to find Harry chatting with my trainer. Sorry, Cassandra, Mike said, not meeting my eyes. Mr. Hamilton booked private sessions during your usual slot. I've arranged for you to work with Tony instead. Tony, the substitute trainer, flinched every time Harry walked past. His hands shook as he held the pads. Harry had gotten to him too. My direct report pulled me aside after the partner meeting. They're restructuring our department. Your position might be redundant, which is insane. You just got excellent reviews. She looked confused. It doesn't make sense. It made perfect sense if you understood Hamilton logic. The detective I filed my report with called that afternoon. Ms. Williams, we've reviewed your case. Unfortunately, there's insufficient evidence to proceed. And frankly, pursuing this could open you to defamation charges. The Hamiltons have excellent lawyers. He sounded like he was reading from a script. Probably was. I started keeping a physical notebook, documenting everything after my cloud storage showed access from an unknown IP address. Every encounter, every threat, every small violation. My handwriting grew shaky as the pages filled. Thursday's charity committee meeting was held at the Fairmont Club. The walls were notoriously thin in the old building. Through the paneling, I heard Hamilton cousins discussing Harry's trust fund. $50 million, but he has to marry appropriately by 30. Clock's ticking. He's been shopping for a wife since last year. Cassandra Williams is top of his list. Shopping. Like I was merchandise. At the Women's League luncheon, 3 partners' wives who'd known me since childhood turned their backs when I approached. Harry warned us she's unstable, one whispered, loud enough to ensure I heard. The event coordinator appeared at my elbow. Perhaps you'd be happier in a different volunteer organization. We want everyone to feel comfortable. My social media followers dropped by hundreds daily. Someone was systematically reporting my posts as harassment toward the Hamilton family. Years of photos, memories, connections, all disappearing. Sophie, Adrian's little sister, texted asking to meet for coffee. An hour later, she canceled. Mom took my phone and car. House arrest until I agreed Jasmine was using me. I'm so sorry. I called Adrian, hoping he could help his sister. His voice sounded hollow. She's going through a phase. Mom knows best. In the background, I heard Sophie crying. Adrian, your sister needs Mom knows best, he repeated, then hung up. Later that week, Adrian mentioned something that made my blood freeze. Harry offered to help me hire a private investigator to find Jasmine, make sure she's okay. He has excellent contacts. Harry hunting Jasmine. The thought made me physically ill. My therapist announced she was closing her practice for family reasons with only 30 days notice. Every other therapist accepting new patients mysteriously had Hamilton connections. One was Harry's cousin. Another golfed with his father. The rest had full waiting lists. Friday afternoon, I sat in my Range Rover outside Adrian's penthouse again. 20 minutes passed as I watched him pace, still deleting and rewriting texts to a number that no longer existed. My own phone screen showed another unsent message. The Hamiltons are moving against everyone who helped Jasmine. Please be careful. Delete. Any warning I sent would be intercepted, twisted, used against us both. The Hamiltons had woven their web too perfectly. Every direction I turned, silk threads tightened around me. And somewhere out there, Jasmine was hiding, running from the same family that had destroyed her for the crime of loving their son. Harry's trust fund deadline loomed. $50 million waiting for him to claim if he could just secure an appropriate wife by 30. And I was his chosen target, the girl who'd rejected him for years, now isolated and vulnerable. The photo from my sweet 16 haunted me. Harry in the background, always watching. Some predators strike quickly, others wait, plan, position their pieces carefully. The Hamiltons had taught me something Jasmine learned too late. In their world, love was leverage, family was a weapon, and money could make any problem disappear. Except some problems had names, some problems had faces, and some problems, like Harry Hamilton, didn't disappear. year. They escalated. Harry started appearing at every professional event I attended: the quarterly bar association mixer, the women lawyers luncheon, the courthouse CLE seminars. He materialized at each one with legitimate invitations and witnesses. He'd position himself near me, telling anyone who'd listen we were working through things. The firm's public calendar made tracking my schedule effortless. I recognized the pattern from my law school domestic violence clinic: textbook stalking escalation, but executed with surgical precision. Every lawyer I consulted delivered the same verdict: without physical threats or violence, restraining orders were unlikely against someone of his standing. He stayed meticulously within legal boundaries. Marcus from the country club caught me at the gas station one evening. The valet who'd worked there 15 years glanced around nervously before approaching. His visa depended on his job, he explained quickly, but he needed to warn me. Harry had been asking questions: which route I took home, what time I usually left the office, whether I varied my routine. Marcus begged me not to involve him, then hurried away. I started varying everything: different routes, different times, different gyms. 2 days later, Harry texted, "Missed you at spin class. Hope you're not avoiding me." Attached was a photo clearly taken from inside the gym I'd switched to. The image showed my usual bike in the background. He'd been watching my new routine long enough to learn my schedule. My hands shook as I added pepper spray and a personal alarm to my keychain. I documented every encounter in my physical notebook, but the trembling worsened after Harry mentioned my cute new security measures at a charity auction. A lawyer friend reviewed my documentation informally over drinks. She studied the pages, then shook her head. While concerning, nothing rose to criminal level. Harry was very careful to stay just within legal bounds. The system wasn't designed to stop men like him until they crossed certain lines. Only Sarah from Yale still took my calls regularly. She advised going gray rock, becoming too boring for him to fixate on. Even through the phone, her voice carried fear. The DOJ had taught her how power worked, and the Hamiltons had too much of it. Through my own research, I discovered a gap in Harry's college attendance. The timing matched something Eleanor had mentioned once about him leaving school briefly. Public records showed a withdrawn student petition with Harry's name, but all details were redacted. Eleanor wouldn't return my calls now. Her social media went dark after someone posted old college photos with cruel captions about her weight and appearance. The charity auction arrived too quickly. I maintained perfect composure as Harry bid on a dinner date with me. Well, Harry bidding on a dinner date with his stalking victim at a charity auction really takes going once, going twice to a whole new level of awkward. Nothing says romance like making someone pay to have dinner with you while you're actively documenting their creepy behavior in a notebook. The bidding climbed absurdly high before his mother outbid him, donating the prize to someone more suitable. The calculated humiliation made me look rejected rather than threatened. My father issued his ultimatum over brandy in his study: apologize to Harry within the month or lose my place in the family trust and company succession plans. The words felt rehearsed, like someone else had written his script. Maya called from a burner phone with an update. Jasmine was safe, but had suffered a panic attack when she learned Harry was asking about her at the community center. She was looking into changing her name legally. The fear in Maya's voice matched my own. The Hamilton family dinner proved unavoidable, a fundraiser where my absence would be noted and discussed. I watched Adrian's Aunt Patricia throughout the evening. She observed Harry with barely concealed unease, excusing herself frequently. I found her in the bathroom taking anxiety medication with shaking hands. She whispered, "Just survive it," before returning to the table. During cocktails, Harry cornered me by the terrace doors. His offer was simple: date him publicly for 1 year, and he'd ensure my family's business thrived. Refuse, and watch everything crumble. His smile never wavered as he outlined exactly how he'd destroy my father's permits, my mother's charity position, my brother's Harvard recommendation. 2 weeks later, the threats materialized. Dad's permit application was denied on technicalities. Mom's charity received notice they wouldn't be invited to the fall gala. My brother called, confused about his suddenly withdrawn Harvard recommendation letter. I spent hours at City Hall researching property records. Harry had been buying real estate in specific neighborhoods, working-class areas with large Eastern European immigrant populations. One purchase sat 2 blocks from a Polish community center. The pattern made my stomach turn. He was hunting. The realization crystallized as I studied his holdings. Harry's power came entirely from family money and the fear it generated. He had no actual friends, just people who tolerated him for access or trembled at crossing him. The emperor had no clothes, just a very large bank account. Desperation drove me to hire my own private investigator. Within days, he uncovered what the Hamiltons had buried. Harry was asked to leave his Swiss boarding school at 16. The records were sealed, but the PI's expression was grim. "This family has buried worse things than this," he warned. Sophie managed one call from a friend's phone. Her voice shook as she explained the ultimatum: sign a statement discrediting Jasmine or be sent to boarding school in Connecticut. They were making her choose between college and the truth. The line went dead mid-sentence. Patricia began leaving subtle warnings through coded social media posts. A photo of a charity event with Harry prominently featured, captioned, "Some storms you weather, others you flee." A share about workplace harassment. Small breadcrumbs that showed solidarity while maintaining plausible deniability. Despite losing my promotion track, I refused to apologize or date Harry. Instead, I focused on building an independent legal practice. The work kept me sane, gave me purpose beyond survival. The farmer's market encounter changed everything. Harry appeared at my usual Saturday morning spot, making small talk about organic produce. Then he slipped. "She can't stay in Austin forever," he said, discussing travel plans. His face showed genuine rage at the mistake. He'd revealed Jasmine's location. My PI provided contact information for 2 women who'd filed complaints against Harry that were withdrawn after settlements. Both signed NDAs, but one agreed to meet. She chose a parking garage, arriving in sunglasses and a baseball cap. Harry's younger brother James proved unexpectedly talkative at a wedding. Several drinks in, he mentioned Harry's filing system. He keeps files on every girl who's ever turned him down. Dad calls it due diligence. The casual cruelty of it made me excuse myself to the bathroom. Harry's behavior grew more erratic as cracks appeared in his facade. He showed up at my parents' house uninvited, claiming he was concerned. Security footage from my office building showed him testing door codes at odd hours. The security guard mentioned it nervously, clearly afraid of Hamilton retaliation. I paid a cybersecurity expert to examine my devices. He found evidence my phone had been physically accessed and modified, but the tracking method was too sophisticated to prove legally. The technology was cutting edge, expensive, invisible to normal detection. Confronting Harry at a public restaurant felt like my only option. Witnesses everywhere, security cameras rolling. When I mentioned the tracking, he smiled. "Prove it," he said simply. He knew the sophisticated methods left no legally actionable evidence. Patricia approached me privately at a funeral. Her confession came in whispers between hymns. She'd been in therapy for years because of Harry, but remained financially dependent on the family. She passed me a therapy journal entry from 2015, her handwriting shaky with fear. Anonymous letters about Harry's behavior reached his trust fund review board. They required a psychological evaluation, which Harry blamed on me publicly, despite my innocence. His fury at losing control was palpable. The woman with the NDA finally shared her story in that parking garage. Harry had assaulted her at a Hamilton family compound in 2018. She took $500,000 to stay quiet. Her son needed surgery, and she had no choice. She still had photos of her injuries, kept in a safety deposit box. I avoided Adrian entirely now, mourning our friendship privately. He'd become a potential weapon Harry could use against me. The isolation hurt, but survival required sacrifices. My support system dwindled to 3 people: Sarah, Patricia, secretly, and the cybersecurity expert. Everyone else had been pressured or paid to distance themselves. The Hamiltons' reach was long and their pockets deep. Harry's escalating harassment failed to provoke retaliation. His frustration showed in sloppier moves, like appearing at my new undisclosed office. He was losing control of the narrative. Adrian's mother finally noticed Harry's obsession when she found him going through my old things in Adrian's room. She said nothing but started locking her own door. Even family members were beginning to see the monster they'd created. Word spread through whisper networks about my resistance. 2 other women began secretly documenting their own Hamilton harassment. The accumulated evidence painted a clear picture of systematic predation protected by wealth. Harry's 30th birthday loomed 6 months away. The trust fund deadline made him increasingly desperate. He interviewed and aggressively pursued other women from similar backgrounds. 3 reported uncomfortable encounters to friends, though none would go public. During a family meeting about Harry's marriage prospects, his father expressed concern about his intensity. His mother insisted he just needed the right woman to settle him. They still refused to see what they'd enabled. The real stakes crystallized. Harry would inherit $50 million and exponentially more power to hurt women unless someone stopped him. The system that protected him would only grow stronger. I documented everything while rebuilding my career independently. Each night I slept with pepper spray, a personal alarm, and a baseball bat within reach. The weapons felt like talismans against the darkness pressing in. Several Hamilton business associates quietly distanced themselves from Harry, scheduling conflicts for meetings, prior commitments for social events. The whisper network was working, even if slowly. Truth spread through coded warnings between women. The Hamilton PR machine worked overtime, but they couldn't stop every conversation. Every warning passed in bathroom stalls and parking lots. Harry was quietly removed from 2 charity boards after anonymous concerns about his behavior around female members. His mother blamed me publicly, her fury evident at every social event. Desperation drove Harry to his nuclear option. He sued me for defamation, serving papers at a professional conference to maximize humiliation. The thick legal documents felt like weapons in my hands. The lawsuit forced me to hire expensive lawyers I could barely afford. Harry's family funded an aggressive legal team determined to bury me in motions and paperwork. They filed discovery requests for everything: emails, texts, social media, financial records. The defamation case initially went poorly. Harry's lawyers got most of my evidence excluded on technicalities. The judge, a Hamilton family friend, sustained almost every objection they raised. My lawyers looked increasingly concerned. Sarah carefully shared public information about federal stalking statutes during our calls. She maintained strict professional boundaries to protect her DOJ position, but made sure I understood the interstate commerce implications of Harry's behavior. 3 women who'd been too scared before reached out after news of the lawsuit spread on legal blogs. One was a current Hamilton employee who'd been cornered in the supply closet. Their courage in coming forward gave me hope. Using legally obtained evidence, my lawyers filed a countersuit for harassment and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Harry's team hadn't expected me to have resources to fight back. Their surprise was evident in their scrambled response. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A former classmate's parent, now estranged from the Hamiltons, shared personal letters from that time period. They described Harry's expulsion from Swiss boarding school for stalking a teacher. The handwritten accounts were devastating. What a game changer with that Swiss boarding school bombshell. Those handwritten letters about Harry stalking a teacher back when he was 16 just blew this whole case wide open. WTF. During the deposition, Harry's composure cracked. My lawyers pressed him about his concern for me, and he snapped. His fist hit the table as he admitted to keeping tabs on me for my own good. The court reporter's fingers froze over her keys. His lawyers scrambled to call a recess, but the damage was done. The admission went into the official record. The full pattern emerged through discovery: property purchases near immigrant communities, sealed school records, a trail of NDA payments stretching back years. His own evidence proved the obsession predated any supposed rejection. My lawyers built a timeline showing Harry's fixation began at my sweet 16 party, long before I'd ever refused him. The judge suggested mediation at the next hearing. Her careful phrasing made it clear a trial would damage everyone involved, especially the Hamilton name. The courthouse hallways buzzed with whispers about the case. Law clerks passed documents with raised eyebrows. Even court staff recognized the pattern. Hours before mediation, my phone lit up with notifications. Someone had leaked security footage from the garage incident, but the video was edited, removing the context of Harry cornering me first. The edited version made my defensive stance look aggressive. It spread through our social circles within hours. Sarah called immediately, her voice strained. She'd seen the video and needed to understand what really happened. Even she questioned the narrative now. Patricia's coded support messages stopped entirely. The edited footage had done its job, isolating me further. My lawyers filed a motion to withdraw the next morning. Hamilton pressure had frozen my funding sources. The retainer check bounced. They cited client non-payment, but we all knew the truth. I sat in their conference room as they explained I'd need new counsel or would have to represent myself. The mediation loomed. I spent sleepless nights preparing, reviewing every document, every piece of evidence. My hands no longer shook when I organized the files. Fear had crystallized into determination. If I had to face Harry's team alone, I would. The morning of mediation, I made a calculated decision. The real security footage sat on my laptop, the full, unedited version showing Harry cornering me, pinning me against the wall. I sent it to a legal blogger who'd been following the case. The contempt charges would come, but the truth needed air. Within hours, the authentic footage went viral in legal circles. The contrast with the edited version was stark. Women began sharing their own Harry stories in the comments. Most hid behind anonymous accounts, but the pattern was undeniable. The cascade had begun. The mediator called for a private session after the footage exploded online. Just Harry, me, and minimal lawyers. But Harry's father arrived uninvited, his face carved from stone. He sat beside his son, silent but present. The power dynamics shifted. Harry's narrative collapsed as more women came forward. His lawyers worked frantically to discredit each story individually, but the sheer volume overwhelmed their efforts. Internal Hamilton communications surfaced during discovery, showing the family's long knowledge of Harry's behavior. Years of covered incidents, paid settlements, buried complaints. Under pressure from the exposure, Harry's father finally acted, not from conscience, but from self-preservation. The family empire faced real threat. He leaned forward across the mediation table, his offer simple and clear: $2 million to make this disappear. Sign an NDA, drop all claims, vanish from their world. I studied the contract they slid across the table. $2 million for silence, for letting Harry continue hunting other women, for enabling the next victim and the next. The pen felt heavy in my hand. I pushed the contract back unsigned. Instead, I made my own offer. I'd drop the defamation suit and focus my claims solely on Harry, not the family empire. In exchange, they'd provide written acknowledgement of his pattern of behavior. They'd implement a warning system for potential victims. They'd cut his access to family resources for investigating women. Harry's father's jaw tightened. Admitting the pattern meant admitting liability, but the alternative was worse. A public trial exposing decades of cover-ups. The calculation played across his face. Harry signed the agreement while his father watched. As he scrawled his name, he leaned close enough for me to smell his cologne. His words came out in perfect legalese. Threats wrapped in technical terms his lawyers pretended not to hear, but the security cameras recorded everything. Every threat, every implied violence, every careful legal menace. 3 days later, Harry violated the agreement. His associates contacted me through intermediaries, testing boundaries. The harassment continued through proxies, but he'd miscalculated. The agreement included specific enforcement clauses. Each violation gave me grounds for criminal charges. His final attempt at control came through Adrian. Harry tried manipulating him into pressuring me, playing on their family connection, but Adrian had finally seen enough. He refused all contact with Harry, drawing his own boundaries at last. The federal charges materialized when investigators connected the dots. Harry had used phones and internet to coordinate harassment across state lines. He'd hired investigators in Texas to track Jasmine. Interstate commerce violations made it federal jurisdiction. The FBI didn't care about Hamilton connections or country club memberships. Harry's parents hired the best criminal defense money could buy, but they made their position clear. He was on his own financially. The family resources that had protected him for years suddenly vanished. His trust fund remained frozen pending criminal proceedings. The safety net had been cut. Faced with federal prosecution and no family backing, Harry's options narrowed. His lawyers negotiated frantically. The evidence was overwhelming. Documented stalking, interstate harassment, witness tampering. The prosecutor offered a plea deal. 18 months minimum security, lifetime restraining orders, mandatory psychiatric treatment. Harry took the deal. Adrian's letter arrived 6 months later. Handwritten pages describing his therapy journey, his recognition of how he'd enabled Harry's behavior. He'd left the family business, horrified by what they'd covered up. He asked for Jasmine's contact information to make proper amends. I provided her lawyer's contact instead. Boundaries mattered. If Jasmine wanted contact, she could choose it herself. Adrian would have to earn any forgiveness through patience and respect for her choices. The next months brought steady changes. Other Hamilton victims became clients as I built my practice. We pursued civil judgments against Harry's personal assets. The family trust remained protected, but Harry couldn't access it due to morals clauses. Partial justice, but justice nonetheless. Through legal channels, updates trickled in. Jasmine had graduated nursing school, working at a hospital in another state under her maiden name. She'd built a new life free from Hamilton interference. Adrian worked at a legal aid society, using his privilege to help those the system failed. Sophie had testified in Harry's federal case despite being disowned, her courage fracturing the family's united front. Harry served 14 months before release to lifetime supervision. The restraining orders covered all his victims. GPS monitoring tracked his movements. He couldn't leave the state without permission, couldn't contact any of us, couldn't access his trust fund. The golden cage had become an actual one. My parents chose their side when the verdict came down. They needed Hamilton money more than their daughter's safety. I grieved the relationship privately, but built something better. A chosen family of survivors and allies who understood the cost of truth. 2 years after that night in the garage, I ran my own firm specializing in harassment cases against powerful men. The work was hard, often thankless. The system still protected wealth over victims, but small victories accumulated. Each woman who found justice, each predator held accountable, each survivor who reclaimed their story. I kept a photo on my desk, not for nostalgia, but as a reminder. The image from Adrian's 25th birthday party. All of us smiling before the world shifted. Jasmine radiant beside Adrian, me laughing at something off camera. Even Harry there, watching from the edges. The photo reminded me that courage costs everything but remains worth it. Justice comes in fragments, not fairy tales. Healing takes years and happens in courtrooms, therapy sessions, and quiet moments of choosing yourself over their money. Some nights I still checked my locks twice. Some days, Harry's threats echoed in legal language through my mind. Recovery wasn't linear, but I learned something valuable in those brutal months. Their power only worked if you needed their approval. Once you stopped caring about their world, they became what they'd always been. Just people with money, terrified of consequences. The Hamilton name still opened doors across the city. Harry's victims still whispered their stories in secret. The system still bent toward wealth. But we'd proven something important. Even partial justice could crack foundations. Even small victories could inspire others to speak. I never saved myself from their system. None of us did. We simply forced its hand, made it choose between protecting one predator and protecting itself. The system chose self-preservation, as systems always do. But for once, that meant we won. Thanks for reading this story with me. I'll see you guys in the next video.